inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-aliy al-azim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم. اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of 40 Hadith, and tonight we start Hadith 33. This Hadith is about Wilayah and acceptance of actions. Imam Khomeini, through his own chain of narrators, connects to Sheikh Kulaini rahmatullah alayhi, as we have had many times, and then Sheikh Kulaini from Ahmad ibn Muhammad and al-Husayn ibn Sa'id amman dhakarah and Ubayd ibn Zurara and Muhammad ibn Marid. So the last person is Muhammad ibn Marid. He says that I told Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Hadithun Roviya Lana. A hadith has been transmitted to us, and that is this. أنك قلت, that you said, إذا عرفت فاعمل ما شئت. That when you have ma'rifah, act whatever you like, or as we will mention later, act as much as you like, but right now we say whatever you like. إذا عرفت, when you have ma'rifah, act ما شئت, whatever you like, whatever you want. فقال قد قلت ذلك. Imam Sadiq said, yes, I have said this. Then he says, we have heard something also extra. وَإِن زَنَوْا وَإِن سَرَقُوا وَإِن شَرَبُوا الْخَمْرَ. Imam Khomeini says this qulta or qulto can be both. So either he asks Imam, did you also say this? Or Imam says, did I say this? Anyway, it seems that there was a rumor, a false report, that maybe Imam also said after fa'amal ma shi'ta, whatever you want to do. After ma'rifah of Imam, it wouldn't harm if you have sins, for example, adultery, theft, drinking khamr, no problem. There was such a information. Imam alayhi salam was very sad and said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is what we call kalimatul istirja', and normally this is said when a calamity happens, someone dies or a big catastrophe happens, we say Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We all belong to Allah and to Him we return. It means that it was very shocking and shockingly disturbing. Then Imam said, Wallahi ma ansafuna. Those who have said this or have thought like this, by Allah, have not been fair with us. أن نكون أخذنا بالعمل ووضع عنهم. We are going to be questioned about actions, but for them it's dropped. There is no responsibility, there is no obligation. How can we be responsible and these people who know us are not responsible? إنما قلت, what I said was this: إذا عرفت فاعمل ما شئت من قليل الخير وكثيره فإنه يقبل منك. If you know, if you have ma'rifah, act as much as you like or whatever you like, a little or a lot of good. فإنه يقبل منك, it would be accepted from you. So it was not about doing something wrong, it was doing good actions, hasanat. Hasanat would be accepted. If you have more would be accepted. If you have less would be accepted. But hasanat would be accepted. So some people have maybe intentionally or unintentionally try to confuse others and have spread something like this, and Imam refutes that. So after explaining the wording of the hadith, there's a chapter here about how to bring together and reconcile between hundreds or thousands of hadiths that say we must be pious, we must observe religious duties, we must avoid sins, how much Rasulullah was careful, how much Imams were careful, how Rasulullah advised Imam Ali about taqwa, how each Imam advised other Imams about taqwa, or they advised their Shia. So we have thousands of hadiths about this. On the other hand, there are few hadiths that may suggest if you have ma'rifah and wilayah, then you don't need to worry about action. So how we should bring these together to reconcile? On the one hand, something which is very rational and also very much emphasized in Quran and in thousands of hadiths, that we must be pious. And there are a few hadiths on the other hand that may suggest that after wilayah, then what you do is not that much important, or after iman, it's not that much important. For sure, we cannot have conflict or contradiction. We must come up with a unified understanding. And since this side is very strong, it's compatible with our aqidah, it's compatible with Quran, with thousands of hadiths, we should find an interpretation, a kind of tafsir or ta'wil for those hadiths that suggest otherwise, something that would be compatible. We say jam'a. We have to find jam'a, a kind of way to reconcile. And if they are not, there is a hadith or few of them, for example, can never be interpreted in a way that would not conflict with our principles and these thousands of hadiths, then we would leave them aside and we would leave its interpretation to Imam alayhi salam, to the people who have a strong knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't need to judge about them, we just leave them aside. So now, as sample, he mentions some hadiths out of those thousands that emphasize on taqwa, but these are few very strong ones and very clear ones, especially about Shia, how they should be, and we emphasize on the fact that we must be very pious. we must observe our duties, we must avoid sins. And imams would not help people who just by the claim and by calling themselves Shia, they think they can benefit from imams. So we mention inshallah these hadiths. Then we mention few hadiths that may suggest otherwise, and we try to reconcile. For tonight, I would only mention the first part, which is some hadiths that make it clear that we must be pious, because these are very powerful hadiths and very beautiful, and I don't want to rush. And there are several. The first hadith is in Al-Kafi from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, in which Imam alayhi salam said, Shi'atuna, our Shia are Ash-Shahibun or Humus-Shahibun. In some versions there is Hum, meaning is the same. Al-Zabilun An-Nahilun Alladina idha jannahumul layl istaqbaluhu bihuzn. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, our Shia are those who are sad. This is positive sadness. Means they are serious, they have a purpose, they are working hard to meet their expectations, their ends. They are thin because of huzn and ibadah. Of course, it doesn't mean that whoever is not thin has a problem, but it means that they are not taking that much food and comfort and pleasure. Otherwise, sometimes people, maybe even if they work hard, or if they are still sad and spiritual, they may be fat. That's not a problem. Even Imam Baqir alayhi salam himself was maybe strong in his body, and maybe to some extent fat, but that's not an issue. The issue is not to enjoy yourself by eating too much, or things that are just for the sake of pleasure. So you have to be very careful in reading these hadiths, and don't think that to be fat is bad or to be thin is always good. There are people who are thin and maybe they are more interested in dunya, and maybe there are people who are fat and they are not interested in dunya. So you have to understand these points. So our Shia are those who are sad, who are thin because of sadness and ibadah, and when night embraces them, they welcome it with sadness. Means it's the time for them to go into a very spiritual mode and be ready for tahajjud. In another hadith, Mufaddal says, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, Iyaka was sifla. Be careful and avoid mean people. فإنما شيعة علي من عف بطنه وفرجه واشتد جهاده وعمل لخالقه ورجى ثوابه وخاف عقابه فإذا رأيت أولئك فأولئك شيعة جعفر. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, avoid mean people. These are not our Shia. The only people who are Shia of Ali are those who are modest. Affa from Iffa. Batnuhu wa farj. With their stomach, means about food, and with their sexual relation, they are very modest and they have chastity. They don't eat everything that happens. They don't have relations which are out of Islamic boundaries. They are very careful. وَاشْتَدَّ جِهَادُهُ, and they are very strong in struggling for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَعَمِلَ لِخَالِقِهِ, they act for the sake of their creator. وَرَجَى ثَوَابَهُ, they have raja of reward, وَخَوْف, fear of iqab, punishment. So they have fear and hope. If you see such people, these are the Shia of Ja'far. So if working hard, acting for the sake of God, having fear and hope, these make a person qualified for being a Shia. This was from Imam Sadiq. The next one is what Sheikh Tusi quotes from Imam Raza, and Imam Raza from his father, finally from Imam Baqir alayhi salam. Imam said to Khaythama, أبلغ شيعتنا, inform our Shia, إنا لا نغني من الله شيئا, tell them that we cannot suffice anything. So no one can rely on their relation with us and say, our imams are going to save us. وَأَبْلِغْ شِيعَتَنَا, and also inform our Shia, أَنَّهُ لَا يُنَالُ مَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا بِالْعَمَلِ, what is with Allah cannot be reached except with action. It's not a matter of, wish. It's not a matter of association. If association brings change, positive change, transforms, makes you similar, or at least, can make you a follower, okay. But just, by name or, association is not going to solve the problem. And inform our Shia, this is the third أبلغ شيعتنا, أن أعظم الناس حسرة يوم القيامة, the people who are greatest in loss on the day of judgment are those who من وصف عدلا ثم خالفه إلى غيره, they describe justice but then they act against it, they do something else. I know and talk about something, but then I disregard it. My situation is worse than the people who don't know and don't, have such things. I knew and I described it, and maybe other people benefited from it, but I didn't act upon it. So I have greatest loss. وَأَبْلِغْ شِيعَتَنَا, the fourth time here. أَنَّهُمْ إِذَا قَامُوا بِمَا أُمِرُوا أَنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, if they establish what they have been asked, what they have been commanded, then they are the people who have fawz, they have salvation, they have happiness on the day of judgment. So this hadith also makes it very clear that it's a matter of action and practice and following. In Kafi, Imam Baqir alayhi salam is quoted as saying, لا تذهب بكم المذاهب, means don't let different opinions and schools of thought take you to different directions. Be focused on the truth. The truth is this: فَوَاللَّهِ مَا شِيعَتُنَا إِلَّا مَنْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهِ, by God our Shia are not except those who obey God. Obey God, because the whole concept of Shia is that you have guides, you have teachers that tell you what God wants from you. They have tried their best to follow God, and they help us to follow God. Everything is God. Obedience to God. Also, there is hadith in Kafi from Jabir and Abi Ja'far from Imam Baqir alayhi salam. Very famous hadith. Ya Jabir, أيكتفي من ينتحل التشيع أن يقول يحبنا أهل البيت or أن يقول بحبنا أهل البيت. O Jabir is the one who ينتحل التشيع, adheres to Shia Islam, to Shia school of thought, would take it as sufficient to just say he loves us Ahlul Bayt. فَوَاللَّهِ مَا شِيعَتُنَا إِلَّا مَنِ اتَّقَى اللَّهَ وَأَطَاعَهُ. By Allah, our Shia are not except those who have taqwa and ta'ah, those who fear God and are obedient to God. And then he reached here, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْمَلُوا لِمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Be pious and act for what is with Allah, for the sake of thawab and nearness to Allah. لَيْسَ بَيْنَ اللَّهِ وَلَا بَيْنَ أَحَدٍ قَرَابَةٍ. Allah doesn't have any relation of kinship with anyone, or friendship. Qaraba means of course kinship, but nothing like kinship or friendship is going to work here. Allah is not brother or cousin or uncle of anyone. And of course, even if Ahlul Bayt have brothers or cousins, it's not going to change the situation, because it's not a matter of relations of blood or relations of names or tribe, etc. أحب العباد إلى الله تعالى وأكرمهم عليه أتقاهم وأعملهم بطاعته. The most lovable servants of Allah to Him and the most honored ones are those who are most pious and act more according to His ta'ah. The Quran says, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. Imam also says, أَتْقَاهُمْ وَأَعْمَلُهُمْ بِطَاعَةِ, because ta'ah is taqwa. Taqwa is ta'ah. يا جابر والله ما يتقرب إلى الله تعالى إلا بالطاعة. O Jabir, Wallah, in order to leave no doubt, Imam says, Wallah, there would be no way to get closer to God except with obedience to Allah. ما معنا براءة من النار. We don't have any protection from fire to give to people, or sell them, for example, certificates, or tell them that you are saved from fire. Don't worry, whatever you do, it's fine. No. You have to gain your own permit for going to heaven. وَلَا عَلَى اللَّهِ لِأَحَدٍ مِنْ حُجَّةٍ. And no one has any hujjah above and over Allah to say to Allah, you must send me to heaven, no matter what I have done. مَنْ كَانَ لِلَّهِ مُطِيعًا فَهُوَ لَنَا وَلِيٌّ. Whoever is obedient to Allah is our wali, has our wilayah. وَمَنْ كَانَ لِلَّهِ عَاصِيًا فَهُوَ لَنَا عَدُوٌّ. And whoever is disobedient to Allah and commits sins, he is not our wali, he is our aduv. هُوَ لَنَا عَدُوٌّ. He is enemy for us. وَمَا تُنَالُ وِلَايَتُنَا إِلَّا بِالْعَمَلِ وَالْوَرَعِ. Our wilayah cannot be reached except with action and wara'. Wara' is what we discussed before, a kind of taqwa, which is by avoiding haram and even shubuhat, things which are not very clear, but there's a great chance of being problematic. So this is very clear hadith. Another hadith again from Imam Baqir alayhi salam in Al-Kafi. Ya ma'ashara shi'ah shi'ata al Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. O group of Shia, the Shia family of the Prophet, be the middle group, so that those who are ghali come to you and those who are tali join you. Someone then was called Sa'd, asked Imam, what does it mean? Who are Ghali? Ghali is from Ghuluv, means those who exaggerate, the zealots. Imam alayhi salam said, قوم يقولون فينا ما لا نقوله في أنفسنا. There are people, ghulat, who exaggerate. They say about us something that we don't say ourselves. They make claims about us that we don't claim. They consider some kind of deity for us. You should be in a balanced position so that these people come back to this position which is balanced. فَلَيْسَ أُولَٰئِكَ مِنَّا وَلَسْنَا مِنْهُمْ. Those who exaggerate are not from us and we are not from them. Means we have nothing to do with them. Then he said, okay, this is Ghali. What about Tali? Famat Tali. Because Muhammad said Ghali should return and Tali should join you. Tali means, Tali comes from Telv, means something that comes next or after something. Imam said Tali are the people that these are, they want to have guidance. They are seeking guidance and they don't know how, and they want us to reach khair and goodness and act upon it. So you should help them to reach. Then Imam alayhi salam said, Wallahi ma ma'ana min Allahi bara'ah. By God, we don't have any bara'ah from God to give to people, any protection, any guarantee. There is no guarantee that we have, we can give to people. وَلَا بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ قَرَابَةً. And we don't have kinship with God. وَلَا لَنَا عَلَى اللَّهِ حُجَّةً. And we don't have any proof over him, and to force him that you must, because of this proof that we have, listen. وَلَا تَقَرُّبَ إِلَى اللَّهِ إِلَّا بِالطَّاعَةِ. Or وَلَا نَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَى اللَّهِ إِلَّا بِالطَّاعَةِ. Or وَلَا نُقَرَّبُ إِلَى اللَّهِ إِلَّا بِالطَّاعَةِ. We have to see what is the text. There is no nearness to Allah, or we would not get near Allah except with ta'ah, with obedience. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مُطِيعًا لِلَّهِ تَنْفَعُهُ وِلَايَتُنَا. If someone is obedient to God, our wilayah would benefit them. وَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ عَاصِيًا لِلَّهِ لَمْ تَنْفَعْهُ وِلَايَتُنَا. And whoever is asi for God, disobedient to God, our wilayah would not benefit him. وَيْحَكُمْ لَا تَغْتَرُّ. وَيْحَكُمْ لَا تَغْتَرُّ. Then Imam twice said, woe to you. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. So it is true that there is shafa'ah. It is true that wilayah can help, but wilayah and shafa'ah, which comes with wilayah, are for the people that have some qualifications. The first thing is to say that I have followed this person in dunya. I have shortcomings, I have problems, but I have tried to follow this person. A teacher can do shafa'ah for a student who used to go to class, used to do homework, was respectful to the school regulations, was respectful to teacher, to principal, to other students, but has maybe become ill, cannot one day go to a school, or missed one exam, or didn't get good a result, but everything else shows that this person was committed. Such people can be helped. But if you didn't go to a school at all, even the teacher may say, I don't know you, or I have nothing to do with you, even if I know you, but you are not my student, you are a stranger, or you created problem for other students. So Shafa'a is there, and we very much hope, inshallah, to benefit from Shafa'a. It's Quranic principle. But as the Quran itself says, there are conditions for Shafa'a. Those who intercede and those who receive intercession, they must have certain qualities. In Al-Kafi, Imam Baqir alayhi salam says that قام رسول الله على الصفا. Rasulullah stood on the Mount Safa. Safa and Marwa, when we have Sa'i. So Safa is one of them. Said, Ya Bani Abdul Muttalib, Inni Rasulullah ilaykum wa inni shafiqun alaykum. I am messenger of God to you, and I am concerned about you. وَإِنَّ لِي عَمَلِي وَلِكُلِّ رَجُلٍ مِّنْكُمْ عَمَلُ. I have my own actions. Every one of you has your own actions. لا تقولوا إن محمدا منا وسندخل مدخله. Don't say that because Muhammad is from our family, then we would go wherever he goes. فَلَا وَاللَّهِ. No, by God, it's not like this. ما أوليائي منكم ولا من غيركم يا بني المطلب إلا المتقون. Those who have my wilayah, whether but from you or others, is only those who have taqwa. If you are muttaqi, bismillah. If someone else is muttaqi, bismillah. But if you are not muttaqi, no. ألا فلا أعرفكم يوم القيامة تأتون تحملون الدنيا على ظهوركم. I don't know you on the day of judgment, or I would not find you to come to me and say, come to me for example, help, while you have carried dunya on your back, and other people come, they have carried akhirah. Don't think because you are my relative, you are being helped. No. I should not find you in this condition, that other people come with loads of work for akhirah and you come with dunya. No. Means loads of working for dunya. Of course they cannot take dunya with them, but means the burdens of dunya. And in another hadith, Imam Baqir alayhi salam says, Ya Jabir, again another hadith for Jabir, لا تذهبن بك المذاهب حسب الرجل أن يقول أحب عليا وأتولاه ثم لا يكون مع ذلك فعالا. Don't let different opinions take you with them and carry you away from the truth. Would it be for example to say that it would be enough to say I love Ali, I have wilayah of Ali, but then he is not active, he's not doing good things. Then Imam Baqir says, if someone says Inni uhibbu Rasulallah, Rasulullah is better than Ali. So do you accept that people say I love Rasulullah and they don't do anything? So how a Shia may think that I say I love Ali and I don't do anything, it's going to help me. If just following someone in name or association without action was enough, so non-Shia who follow Rasulullah in name, by name, or just association, should also receive more help. لا يتبع سيرته ولا يعمل بسنته ما نفعه حبه إياه شيئا. If someone follows Rasulullah who was better than Ali and doesn't follow the seerah of Rasulullah and doesn't act according to the sunnah of Rasulullah, this love is not going to help. Love helps by making you committed. But if your love is not making you follow, then it's superficial, it's not really love. So Imam Khomeini says these few hadiths, which are very clear, very explicit, they would defeat and destroy our false desire to go after dunya and think everything will be sorted out. to follow satanic temptations which are against aql and naql, against revelation and reason, and think that everything will be sorted out because we are Shia. And add to this the Quranic verses, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ رَهِينَةٌ. Every soul is like a hostage for what they do and what they acquire. Means you are taken responsible for whatever you acquire. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ, or another verse, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Or لَهَا مَا كَسَبَتْ وَعَلَيْهَا مَا اكْتَسَبَتْ. Whatever good or bad you acquire, it's for the soul and it's remaining. And many other verses. So these are few verses and hadiths that are chosen out of thousands, which say that we have to be pious and fulfill our duties and responsibilities, and without taqwa we cannot expect anyone to help us. Inshallah, in the next session we would discuss other hadiths which are much less, that may be taken by some people as suggesting that Wilayah is enough, or Iman, faith, is enough, and we don't need to worry too much about our actions. We will inshallah mention some of them, and we will clarify what they mean. And for sure our bottom line and red line is obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that suggests you don't need to obey Allah, you don't need to perform your duties, is rejected and has no place. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.